Welcome, friends, to day two of our challenge. Guys, I know you enjoyed the last time, and today also you're going to have some exciting things to really learn and to really enjoy. So, today we'll be focusing on more concepts of core SQL techniques. We'll be looking at string functions, order by, and versus all within the where clauses, like within the where clauses, and some other concept. Okay, today we have three questions: question one, two, and three. All right, so in this video we're going to be focusing on question one. Okay, so this is the use case. Let's quickly go through that. Okay, ahead of a security audit, HR and IT require a standardized employee login list for all hires after December 1st, 2009. The list should remove legacy domain prefixes to simplify credential verification and be sorted by national ID for consistency and accuracy. Okay. Then we have the business impact, support access, compliance, and lower audit remediation workload. Action: produce a compliance ready credential report with standardized login fields. Now, we are not going to produce the report, obviously, because this is really focused on SQL and the data. So, but we need the data to produce the report. So, we're going to focus on data. Now, let's go back to the formula we had in our previous videos, right? Remember, we have to look for tables, attributes, and filters. Now, from this use case, what table are we looking into? We're looking at employee, right? And also, what filter do we have after December 1st, 2009? And then what are the things we need to factor in? Number one, we need to know that they want us to remove the legacy domain prefixes, very key to take note. Also, they want us to sort by national ID for consistency and accuracy. Okay, so those are things we need to factor. And then you have your solution here that you can always go over. Now, one thing that you see it's new is this field, and then some other interesting work that we're going to be doing in this particular video. All right, let's jump into our lab. Okay, now it's very similar to what we had done yesterday or the other time. So when you copy this, very similar to what the business is asking for, and so we will just run this. Let's run it. So we just copy what we had, the query we had before. Now, the first thing we want to focus on is the fact they said we should sort by the national ID. Now, there is a function called order by, and what it does is that it allows us to sort a table by a specified column, either in ascending or descending order. Okay, by default, right, it takes the first attribute or the first column mentioned here, and then it's sort by it. So for example, if we didn't put the order by, look at the employee and you'll see that it sort this table or this query result by the employee ID. Okay, so we're gonna make that explicit. Let's quickly do that. And also by default it's going to be ascending order, meaning from lowest to highest, right? So we're going to say ascending, and you will notice nothing changes. Okay, you can see nothing changing. That's just to show us that that is the default behavior of this order by. Okay, but we're going to change it, right? So ASC definitely means ascending, and then this is going to be descending. Okay, and then we're going to run that. You can see it's now ordering or sorting this entire table by employee ID, but in a descending order. Now, there's a tweak I want to add to it. Now, so this new trick doesn't apply to all SQL system. For example, my Microsoft SQL, T-SQL, it won't work for it. Okay, now this trick will not work for, but for Postgres it does work. So for example, you can change this to one. In this case will make the first column here. Okay, and then when you run it, you will get the same result. Okay, and then you can also change this to you can switch it back to ascending, just to be sure we understand clearly, and then you will see it does work. For Spark SQL it will work, for Postgres SQL it will work, for but some other SQL variance, it may not work, but it's good to know. Okay, and then no, our focus is national ID, right? To sort it, and we're going to sort in ascending order. So here we're just going to say 2. 2 means the national ID number, and then we're going to run it, and then you see it sorting by national ID number. If you go through it, you can see it's in ascending order. That's exactly what we want. Now, for the purpose of understanding and referencing, I will not leave 2 here. I will just, you know, make it explicit by referencing that particular column. So let's switch this back to 2 and back to national ID number, and it should work. This is perfect. The next thing they want us to do is that they want us to extract, remove this domain, and then just extract this more or less like the username, okay, into a different column. So how do we do that? Now I will introduce you to string functions. Now I will show you the documentation, and I want you to get used to this documentation. Okay, now this is Postgres documentation, and there are 2 functions we are going to be using. Okay, there are other ones we can use, but for the purpose of this video, I wouldn't want to go into more advanced, but we'll stay with 2. The first one is replace. Okay, and then guys, I want you guys to really get used to documentation. That's why I'm showing you, because we can go over all of these different functions, but when you have the documentation, you see how we use 1 or 2, then you can take it up from there and be able to use for your different use case at work or during your practice time. All right, so if you look at replace here, this is the function, and this is what it does. We reference the text column, and you specify from which text and to text, right? And so what it does is that it replace all occurrences in string of source string from with source string to. So example they've shown us here is that you replace, this is the text, and you're replacing cd with xx, right? Very straightforward. And therefore you're replacing this everywhere it says cd, it will replace with xx, and you can see what the output looks like. That's exactly what we're gonna do. But before we leave this particular page, let's quickly go to the second part. Let's go to the second one, where we would be looking at the split part. So we will split part. You can see this split part also. It's a little bit different from the replace, and see it takes the string text and then references the delimiter text, and then it takes the field integer. So what it basically does is that when you provide a delimiter, it breaks the character or the word into 2 essentially, okay, or that text into 2, right? So for example, if you look here, we're referencing this, and when you look at this text, it breaks this into 1 and 2 and probably 3 for this, right? And then when you specify 2, you are referencing def. That's why you get def. Okay, so we'll be using that for that extraction that we need to do in our lab. Okay, so now let's quickly do that. So let's come here, let's start with replace. All right, we say replace. Okay, replace, and then we reference this. Don't forget that. We reference this, and then also we then reference the DSP workshop, I believe, workshop backslash, and then what do we want to replace that with? So basically we're just going to replace it with nothing, and then when we replace this with nothing, it just gives us this particular username that we really need in another field. Okay, and then we're going to call this, and I also want you to take note of this alias. Okay, we're going to call this particular new derived field login, okay, ID only. Okay, and that's exactly what we have in that sample that you have. Okay, so you run this and you can see beautiful, it's working exactly what we want. You can see it's pulling just the username. This is awesome, guys. That's exactly what you need to do. Now we need to do the second one just so that we have other options. Now it's not only, we have multiple options when it comes to string functions, but for the purpose, like we mentioned before, we're just going to stick to 2. So we use another function, and then we call it split part. Okay, let's quickly call that split part. And then all we need to specify is the delimiter. In this case, if you can see, this is the delimiter, and then it breaks this word, this text into two. So all of this become one and all of this become two. And we'll just reference one first so you know we actually need a two. So let's do one first and then we call this two. So at least we see. Okay, so now you can see one is just pulling out DSP dash workshop, and that's what it's pulling for every record. And then what we actually need is two, and then we're just gonna have the two. Guys, that is it. That is it. And at this point, we can either choose one or the other. So for this purpose, we just choose one and then we run that query, and that is exactly what we need. All right, and then don't forget the alias. You can use it with as. That's really the recommended, so that it's very explicit, or you can just use it without even putting the as, and then it will still work. Okay, but I would leave it with as because that is what is make it very clear for other people if they are looking at this code. Before we wrap up for today, I also want to show you some things. Just one last one I want to show you now. Sometimes when you are testing your data, you really don't want, especially when the data is in millions of records, you don't want to always query the millions of records. So sometimes you just need to limit it. So you can just add limit right here and then say limit 5 or limit 10, whatever, right? And then it's basically just limited to 5. And then so let's look at this and what we have for the expected output. Let's do that. And when you look at here, exactly what we have. Beautiful, guys. 281, 290, 137. And you can see 94, 13, 30. Let's go back to our other screen. 94, 13. Beautiful, guys. That's exactly what we need. And with that, we will end this particular session. I hope this has been really helpful and you've learned a lot. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next session.